People are not born smart. People learn how to work with what they've got and become smart as a result. Here's how they do it. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, and we inspire. And I was reading an article by a gentleman named Nicholas Cole, and I'm going to quote his article quite a bit today. And I want you to think about these things in terms of what separates the achievers, the smart people, from those that are unsuccessful, that don't achieve. You know, we begin to think that high levels of intelligence are more a result of nature than of nurture. But you know what? That ain't how it works. The truth is really that we're all blank slates when we arrive on this planet. Sure, we inherit a few things from our predecessors, our parents, but ultimately our futures depend on our work ethic. There are plenty of brilliant people in the world who never amount to much, solely because they lack the desire to refine their inherent talents and intelligence. And on the other side of the spectrum, there are plenty of people who had the odds stacked against them and went on to do brilliant things. You know, when I think about that, and I'm not just talking about super knowledge, I'm talking about people that with effort. I mean, when I think back to when I was in high school, we had a kid, and his name was Michael, and he was just an absolutely fabulous basketball player. He was like 6'1", 220, kind of hefty, kind of chunky, but he was quicker than the devil. And he could rebound and make moves like nobody's business. And his future was just, it was so exciting. You know, when he was a freshman, the varsity coach put him on the varsity, and the team had made the state tournament, and the newspaper said of him, you know, he is worth the price of admission to go see him play. So what happened to Michael? Michael lost his way. He lost his discipline. And I'm not talking about basketball, although I'm sure he lost it there as well. But he didn't know how to act in school. He didn't know how to work with other people. He was a bully. There were all sorts of different things that he did, and they prevented him from being the super achiever as a basketball player that he could have been. So keep these things in mind. You know, you can have talent, you can have ability, but you also have to have that discipline. So let's go over some of the things that smart people do according to this author. And these are things that you've heard before in this channel, but once again, it's coming from a different viewpoint, and I'm hoping that, you know, maybe this particular viewpoint will click with you, Eli, and make you an achiever. All right? First one, smart people read a lot. Smart people practice reading often, and just like anything else, with practice they get better and better over time when they're doing it. You know, when you hear about Bill Gates, when you hear about Warren Buffett, one of the things that you always hear about them is how much time they dedicate every single day to reading. It gives them new ideas, it gives them new things to visualize, it gives them new options to pursue, it gives them a new viewpoint that's different from their own. Can you see why they're so smart? Do you see why they're able to accomplish so much? Is because they're always feeding their head with new perspectives. And you can only accomplish that by reading over and over and over. Every day it's a great idea to dedicate some time, even if it's only a half an hour a day, to reading. And you'll find that, you know, at the end of the year you will have read, you know, 3 or 4 books a month by doing that. And at the end of the year, if you improve yourself by 1% every single day, by the time the end of the year comes around, boy, you've really improved your knowledge. You've really improved your skill set. Does that make sense? Another thing, smart people hang around Other smart people. You know, most people, they just hang around people that are just like themselves. That can be a good thing when you do it intentionally, and a bad thing when the result has a negative impact. If you want to become smarter, you have to spend time around people smarter than you are. You know, I'm sure you've heard the quote, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And, you know, when you spend time with smart people, you find their drive, their knowledge, their awareness inherently is going to rub off on you. It raises the standard that you hold for yourself. It stretches your brain in ways that you can't get from any other source. And it makes you question, hey, if they can do that, if they know all that stuff, why can't I? And I think of two examples of that. One was the opportunity that I had to live in the same house with a mentor of mine, Bob Anderson, for 2 months. You know, seeing him at work, okay, you learn stuff there. But also being around Bob and his wife, Betty Jean, was just such a life-changing experience for me, because you got to see how the successful people thought about things, just everyday things that you kind of take for granted, you know, that you pushed aside, that Bob would say, no, you know, start sending out resumes. I remember watching a movie with him and at Wall Street, and he said, you know, tell people to start sending out resumes, because we don't want them working from us if that's going to be their attitude. The other thing that I think about, and Eli, I've told you this over and over and over again, right now one of your passions is being a basketball player, which was certainly one of my passions. When I was a puppy, when basketball was my life, that's what my whole life centered on, I made it a point to always seek out the better players. There were so many times when I would play, when I was, you know, a freshman in high school, I would get into the games with the varsity players. You know, I'd be the last guy picked. You know, they needed one more guy to play. I was always there. And what happens is it starts to rub off on you. You make mistakes, you know, and they give you the look like, that was a stupid pass, or that was, you know, what are you doing? But you learn from it, excuse me, at the same time. And if you want to become better at anything, don't be the smartest one in the room. Don't be the most talented person in the room. Find people that are better than you and associate with them, because the things that make them up here are the things that will help you to get there as well. And the only way to get there is to be around them. Does that make sense? Smart people love making mistakes. People who don't understand how true intelligence is cultivated also understand that mistakes, they don't really exist. Every mistake that you make is an opportunity to learn a lesson, to improve, and for you to move forward. Which means part of becoming smart is shifting your mentality away from fearing mistakes and instead embracing them. Why? Because they show you what you need to learn next, what you need to refine, what you need to improve upon in order for you to reach the next level of success. That's really what the growth process is all about. And you learn things like that with drill, practice, rehearse, drill, practice, rehearse, and by experience, by execution. You know, in the sales game, you go out and you know, one of the things that, you know, oh, he's a good closer. He knows how to close. All right. Well, yeah, it's important to be a good closer. But the thing is, what gets you from the initial contact with your client to the close is a whole series of different steps that you must take, that you must master. The same thing is true in life. Closing in anything requires that you have been able to master small, minute steps. In other words, that you're able to chunk things down to achieve a certain level of excellence. Does that make some sense to you? I hope it does, because it's really, really true. Chunk things down, put them at their smallest component, master them, and then you can move on. And then when you put them all together, it's what makes you excellent. When I had my Frostsoft basketball team, they were pretty good athletes, but they weren't particularly good basketball players. So I took that into account, and I said, how can I take these guys as athletes and make us a winning basketball team and make them better basketball players at the same time? Well, if you're a good athlete, remember, defense is half the game. I chunked down a particular press that nobody else was using, a press called run and jump, where you force people to an angle and they would come and they would double team and then everybody would rotate. And there was so many different steps that you had to take. The first step was to control the dribbler. The second step was to be off your man so you could see. And there were all sorts of different little steps that needed to be developed. And it took a long time to do that, but they became excellent in the little steps. And then when you put them all together, teams hated to face us because they knew they were going to get pressed. And number one, they walked into the game with fear. And number two, we would steal the ball. And our guys weren't great basketball players, but anybody that's a decent athlete can make a layup. And that's what my team did. So chunk down, become excellent, and put it all together. Smart people see value in all types of knowledge. Dumb people are the ones that say, oh, that's not relevant to me, I don't need to know that. Smart people are the ones that say, that's pretty interesting, I didn't know that. Tell me more about that. Smart people embrace these random moments of learning and see them as opportunities to expand who they are and their awareness in the world. Let me give you a couple of examples of that. You know, when the internet first came out, when computers first came out, you know, I was a part of that, Eli. Yes, I did exist in the world before computers. I would take a look at those things, and I'm fairly typical of people my age, and say, oh, I don't need that. I've survived this long in this world without knowing how to use a computer, you know. But you know what? As time goes along, you say to yourself, this is the way the world is. You need to learn these different things. Let me give you a different example of that. When I came out of college, my vision was to become a school teacher. So I became a school teacher, and I was working in a district in the San Jose area, and I started as a substitute teacher and did apparently a pretty decent job, because one of the teachers there was pregnant. She had to leave, and she requested that I be the one to take her place on a permanent basis. Oh boy, I'm achieving my dream. And then what happened was, in California, they had a tax initiative. They cut the school funding, and the last people hired were the first people fired. Guess who the last person hired was? So I found myself at the end of the school year looking for work. Well, necessity is a mother, isn't it? So here's what I did. I looked in the paper, and I looked at different jobs, and I went for an interview. Believe me, Eli, the last thing on this planet that I wanted to become was a salesperson. But I walked into the office of Mr. Mort Mutnick. Mr. Mutnick inspired me, taught me things, showed me how sales is not something like a used car salesperson, that stereotype is not correct. And from there, I started to embrace being a salesperson, being someone that could persuade people. So, but if you don't go out and try different things and look at different things and open your mind to different things, you may miss your life's calling. Because I can tell you, when I threw the cap up in the air and graduated from college, the first thing I thought to myself was, oh boy, I'm going to become a salesperson. In fact, that was the last thing on my mind. But times change, situations change, and if you keep your mind open as to what you can do, as to how you can serve, and you embrace some of the new ideas, then you can move forward. Once again, that's how smart people become smart. Smart people work very, very hard. Whoever thinks that being smart's a cakewalk has never really traveled down that path. Learning and improving should be fun. You should enjoy what it is you're sinking your teeth into. But at the same time, it's naive to think that the process is always going to be, you know, roses. It just isn't the case. The truth is, it's hard work to dig into your craft and really learn it inside out. Smart people don't shy away from that discipline. What they do is they create a life and a schedule that encourages it, forcing themselves to get done what they need to get done in order to remain in a constant state of growth. This was essentially the path that I took when I started working for a company called Copa, which was in the position that I was seeking, that I answered the ad for, was a management trainee. Well, it was a sales management. So yeah, I already learned some significant sales from Mr. Mort Mutnick, but then when I started working for this company, you know, I had to apply the sales and the management aspect. And what happened was I completely adjusted my life schedule. I was living in Santa Cruz, which is one of the most beautiful places to live. This office was out of San Jose, which is like a 45, 50-minute drive. What did I do? I adjusted my schedule. I pretty much got rid of all the people that I was hanging around with in the recreational area known as Santa Cruz, and became somewhat of a workaholic. I had a singular focus. The point was even driving from Santa Cruz to San Jose, 45, 50-minute drive, I would listen to tapes on sales over and over and over again. While I was in San Jose and I was waiting for my team to go out and hit the field, I was reading a book every single day for 35 minutes or so, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, every day before, on closes, on how to get things done, so on and so forth. I put those things together. And what was amazing was when I would go out in the field, the close that I was reading about that very day would often come into play, and I would use it right away. So you have to keep your mind open, you have to work hard, you have to discipline yourself. And then there's the extra time put in onto the management side. We had a specific presentation that we would make to people that we were recruiting, to people that we were training, to people that we were developing. I had to learn that word for word for word, and I put the time in to do that. Now, I'm not sitting here bragging to you, I'm just saying there's an example of you not only need the knowledge, but you need to have the discipline to give some things up, like the fun I was having in Santa Cruz, and dedicating yourself to a single purpose and having the discipline to restructure your day so that it allows you to use the things that you're going to need to achieve that burning desire that you have. In my case, that was becoming the manager of my own office, which I was able to achieve through hard work. And the people around would take a look and they'd say, wow, he's doing this, he's doing that. But they don't see behind the curtain all of the time that you put in to develop a skill set of excellence. So these are the keys to improvement and to intelligence in general. It doesn't just happen, it takes hard work. So let's review the 5 things that we spoke of. Smart people read a lot. Smart people hang around other smart people. Smart people love making mistakes. When you make a mistake, you take it as an opportunity to learn and not as a final note of failure. Smart people see value in all different types of knowledge, and they embrace it instead of saying, oh, I don't need that, it doesn't relate to me. And smart people work very, very hard. So remember, smart people are not born, they're made. These are the 5 components that will help get you there. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's all get out there, be smart, and charge! I'm Eli's dad.